Your jaw starts aching for no reason. Your shoulder blade tightens up on one side. Your left arm tingles a little, and your mind jumps straight to worry. You check your posture. You check what you ate. Nothing adds up because the spot that hurts seems to have nothing to do with anything you actually did. Here's the strange part. Your body isn't confused, and it isn't malfunctioning. It's actually using a shortcut, one built directly into your nervous system, where signals from completely different areas end up sharing the same wiring on their way to your brain. That's why pain can show up in a place that has nothing to do with the real source. So why does your body send pain signals to the wrong location, and what is it actually trying to tell you? Think about that for a second. Somewhere inside you, a signal is starting in one place and ending up read in another entirely. That is not random noise. That is a message getting rerouted. And once you understand how that rerouting actually works, those strange, unexplained aches stop feeling like a mystery and start feeling like a message you can finally learn to translate. To understand the shortcut, you have to go back to how your nervous system was actually built. It was not designed with one private wire running from every single organ straight to the brain. That would take an almost infinite number of separate cables. Instead, your body economizes. Nerves from your skin, your muscles, and your internal organs often bundle together and travel through the same shared pathway before they ever reach the spinal cord. Think of it like several tributaries feeding into one river. Once they merge, the water is just water. The signal from your gallbladder and the signal from the skin on your shoulder can end up flowing through that same shared stretch of river on their way upstream to your brain. This is where things get interesting. When an organ is under strain, it sends out a distress signal, same as any other part of your body would. But that signal cannot take a private highway. It has to merge onto the same crowded on-ramp used by nerves from nearby skin and muscle. Your heart is a clear example of this. The nerves carrying distress signals from heart tissue merge into the same spinal pathway as the nerves running through your left arm and up into your jaw. So when the heart is under strain, the signal riding up that shared pathway can register in the brain as arm pain, or jaw pain, or both, even though nothing is actually wrong with the arm or the jaw themselves. The distress call gets on the right train, just the wrong car. Here is the part that explains why this happens at all. Once multiple signals are riding the same shared pathway, your brain has to make a judgment call about where the signal actually came from. Most of the time it gets this right, because your brain has spent a lifetime learning which sensations usually come from which locations. But your brain has far more experience feeling sensations from your skin than it does from the surface of an organ tucked deep inside your body. Skin sends signals constantly, all day, every day. Organs rarely do. So when an internal organ suddenly sends an urgent signal up a shared pathway, the brain, working off of years of habit, sometimes attributes it to the more familiar location, the skin or muscle area it usually hears from on that same line. This is exactly what happens with the gallbladder. When it becomes irritated, the distress signal shares a pathway with nerves that map to the right shoulder blade. The brain, following its usual pattern recognition, projects the pain there instead of to the actual source. It is worth pausing on why the body would be built this way at all, because at first it can sound like a design flaw. It is not. Running a completely separate, dedicated pathway for every organ and every inch of skin would require a nervous system so dense it would barely fit in your body. Overlap and sharing were the efficient trade-off. Your kidneys are a good example of this trade-off in action. Kidney irritation often gets felt as lower back pain because the nerve pathways from the kidneys converge with the pathways serving the muscles along your lower back. The system was built for efficiency first, precision second. Most of the time that trade-off works out fine. Occasionally, it produces a strange location mismatch. That mismatch is not the system breaking. It is the system doing exactly what it was built to do, just showing its seams. There is a downstream effect worth noticing here too. Because pain sometimes shows up far from its real source, that faraway ache can actually become the earliest noticeable clue that something else needs attention. Your diaphragm is a good illustration of this. It sits underneath your lungs, and its nerve pathway happens to converge with the pathway running to the tip of your shoulder. So when the diaphragm becomes irritated, the first thing you might consciously notice is not anything in your chest or abdomen at all. It is a strange, specific ache right at the tip of your shoulder. The far-off signal becomes the messenger. This shortcut is not limited to internal organs either. It shows up constantly in ordinary muscular tension, the kind almost everyone deals with regularly. Tension headaches are a familiar example. The ache often does not register in the scalp muscles where the tension actually builds. Instead, it gets felt behind the eyes because the nerve pathways from those scalp and neck muscles converge with pathways connected to the area around the eyes. The tension is real, and it is happening exactly where you would expect, but the brain reads the signal one stop further down the shared line. Digestion offers one more clear example of the same shortcut. Stomach discomfort does not always stay in the stomach. Sometimes it shows up as a tight, achy sensation across the upper back, because the nerve pathways carrying signals from the stomach converge with the pathways running through the muscles of the upper back. Someone might spend time stretching or adjusting their posture to relieve that tightness, without realizing the real signal started somewhere else entirely. There is one more distinction worth holding on to as you think through all of this. A single, one-off ache in a strange location is usually just this shortcut firing on its own, a passing bit of overlap in the wiring, but a pattern that keeps repeating, or one that seems to intensify over time, is a different kind of signal. That kind of repetition is your body pointing at the same connection again and again, which is exactly the kind of pattern worth learning to notice. Here is something worth knowing about referred pain that makes it a little less unsettling. It usually has a natural off switch. That shoulder tip ache from an irritated diaphragm does not stay lit forever. Once the actual irritation underneath calms down, the shared pathway stops firing the way it was, and the signal at the far end quiets down too. The map only lights up while the real trigger is active. When the trigger fades, so does the rerouted sensation. That is worth sitting with for a moment, because so much of the quiet worry around unexplained aches comes from assuming they mean something permanent. Most of the time, they are simply echoing an active signal, not announcing lasting damage. So what do you actually do the next time your jaw aches out of nowhere, or that same spot under your right shoulder blade tightens up again? You do not need to diagnose yourself, and you do not need to spiral into worst-case scenarios. You need one simple habit, borrowed directly from how this wiring actually works. Pause for a moment and jot down 3 things. Where exactly is the ache? What does it actually feel like? Sharp, dull, tingling, tight? And what else was happening in your body around that same time? What you ate, how stressed you were, how you slept the night before. That is it. No app, no elaborate system. Just a few lines, maybe in your phone's notes app, maybe on a sticky note. You are not trying to solve anything in the moment. You are building a simple pattern log, the same way you would notice that a certain road always seems to have a traffic jam at a certain hour. One data point tells you nothing. Several data points start to reveal a route. This matters because of everything you now understand about the wiring itself. Your nervous system is not out to confuse you. It has a limited number of pathways handling an enormous number of signals, so overlap is baked into the design. When your heart, your gallbladder, or your diaphragm need to send an urgent message, they use the same lines already running to your skin and muscles, because those are the lines that exist. Your body is not glitching when it does this. It is doing exactly what it was built to do, communicating through a shared wire, even if the message occasionally shows up on the wrong output. Understanding that turns a source of quiet anxiety into a source of curiosity instead. Over the coming week, you might start noticing small threads connecting your own pattern log. Maybe that upper back tightness tends to show up an hour or two after certain meals, echoing the same stomach to upper back pathway. Maybe a certain kind of shoulder ache tends to follow the same stressful mornings, or the same short nights of sleep. You are not trying to force a conclusion. You are simply giving your body's signals a place to be noticed instead of dismissed or panicked over. That noticing on its own is the entire shift. So go back to where this all started. Your jaw aching for no clear reason. Your shoulder blade tightening on one side. That faint tingle running down your arm that sent your mind straight to worry. None of that was your body malfunctioning, and none of it was random. It was a distress signal taking the only route available, merging onto a shared line, and surfacing somewhere nearby instead of at its true source. That mysterious ache in your shoulder or jaw was never random. It was your body's wiring taking a shortcut, and your simple pain log is how you finally learn to read the map correctly.